Well, hello everybody. We went for a walk this morning, and yeah, we did. And she said, flopped on the floor. It's hot. She's in front of the fan, and we saw some cute little ducklings. And the parents came over and came right up to us with their little ducklings. And I thought I recorded it. I was using my phone on other things. They had a few. There's a Takani here. A few other things is that my tenant in Unit 1 went to move to Turkey. She was promised a job there with her father. She wanted to see her kids. The kids were living with the dad, and she hadn't seen the kids for about 9 months. And so she wanted to go and see the kids as well. There are only 2 young kids that she's got. So she gave up the lease. I let her go, no questions. I wasn't worried. And she said that if the unit is available, would I welcome her back? And I said yes, no problem at all. She said, well, do you change the rent? And I said no, I'll probably keep it the same, because she was only looking at initially about 6 months to try it out. And she contacted the real estate agent a week after arriving in Turkey. She wasn't actually going home, but her dad has a house or property in Turkey and one back home, and so she moved to Turkey because in her country they're being really harassed, the women, and as you've probably seen on TV, and so she wasn't willing to go back there. A week later, after arriving in Turkey, she sent the real estate agent an email saying she would like to come back and if the unit is still available. Lucky enough, I'm getting quotes on work to be done on the unit, just painting and changing over the carpets. The carpets are fine and the painting's not too bad, but the painting hasn't been touched for quite a few years, about 6 years, and the carpet's probably about 9 years old when Mum put the carpet in. And it's the wrong carpet for rental. It's wool, so it's very easy to stain, but that's the carpet she wanted because it was plush and luxurious. And so yeah, the real estate agent rang me up and said she got the email and would I welcome her back. I said yep, no problem at all. Keep the rent the same, no questions. And so she rang me. She came back into Australia on Friday, so it wasn't even a week that she'd gone. She left on the previous Saturday and she came back on and landed on Friday. And she rang me up and all in tears and everything. So obviously did not go down well. She is a survivor of domestic violence. So she had never. I was the first person to rent her a place in Australia. So she escaped the domestic violence, and looks like hubby has taken off back over to overseas with the kids. And of course, as far as she's concerned, she has no say in it. Even though Australian law probably does have a say in it. It's tradition and culture. And so it sounds like that it might have been a situation where her father said, yep, you've got this job, because it was actually she was going to work for her dad, but she didn't know. I don't think she knew that it was conditional that she gets back with her husband. And of course it all blew up, and she didn't want that, and that's what she escaped from. But of course, women in her country now have very little rights, so she wasn't going to go back into that situation, and that's why she came back to Australia and all in tears. And I don't blame her, so I said, yep, no problem at all, we'll give you a new lease. I've tried to be as good to her as possible. She didn't have to pay for breaking the lease, and which was $145 or something like that. I said, no, I'll pay for that. She didn't have to pay for carpet cleaning or any repairs or anything like that. I'm paying for all that. Water usage, I'm again paying for that. And so she gets her full bond back at the time, because I know that she needed all the money she could get moving to Turkey. Lucky enough, her boss said that they said, she asked if they could keep her job open for 6 months, and her boss said, no, we'll keep it open for you for 12 months. So coming back to Australia, she's got a job automatically, so that's really good. She's just finished her law degree. She hasn't got the paperwork yet, but she's just finished her last exams, passed her last exams. So that's a bit of a drama's going on there. So, but it's actually not been too bad for me, because I had to cancel the painter, and we're not going ahead with the carpets anymore, so I saved money there for now. And I've lost a week's worth of rent, and there was no reletting fees and everything, because it normally costs a couple of weeks rent to relet, plus the time to relet. So when I change tenants, I seem to lose about 2 months worth of rent, just to pay for the fees and the time that the place is vacant. So it hasn't worked out too bad. Another thing is that on this morning's walk, I came past unregistered a car that had no plates on it, and although some of you might think, well, that's quite normal, here having no plates on a car in the street, parked in the street, is unusual. Usually they're parked in people's driveways or, on their property, because they know that the council will tow the car. And I came across this car and I thought, that looks very familiar to one that's been advertised on Facebook, well, put on Facebook, as being a possible theft. A guy said that he woke up in the morning, around 2 o'clock in the morning, and heard a big truck, thought nothing of it, and went back to sleep. And when he got ready for work, his car was gone. So he suspects it was put on a tilt tray and towed away. It was seen on the northwest of Toowoomba on a truck, back of a truck, and then it was last reported that it was being driven erratically through the western suburbs of Toowoomba. And so I've just Facebooked him and said, are you still missing the car? I took photos of it and I said, I saw this one on this street. It looks very, very similar. So he went out, he said that he was 5 minutes away from that street, so he's just got back to me just then saying, yes, it's his car, and that it's in a lot better condition than he was expecting, and it wasn't too bad. Just a little bit rougher. I think it's they put a dent in one of the panels, but apart from that, and probably bolder tyres. So he's very happy that he's got his car back, but he has no keys because they took the keys. That's how they took the. He must have left the keys in the car, I'm assuming, and he doesn't have a spare set. Sounded like the guy was just keeping the car to work on. So that's all of our news. So we'll see you later.